has wellness canceled veganism? That's the question posed in this recent Women's Health article. Now, I can't say that I read this publication ever, but I was sent this by Claudia, which I appreciate because in light of some recent events, I thought this would be a good topic to discuss today. And if you don't know what I'm referring to, look no further than the subheading. With Lizzo, the latest celeb to announce she's now a former vegan, Women's Health asks if the era of eschewing animal products in the name of health is over. Well, right there we have our first frustrating moment of the article. Before the article has even begun, we have the tale as old as time crime of media misrepresenting veganism. As most of us know, veganism is a stance against the exploitation of animals, but here they're conflating that with eschewing animal products in the name of health. In this video, we're going to explore the article's argument for how wellness may have canceled veganism, as well as discuss some of the more recent celebrity ex-vegan stories. I'm aware these topics can be frustrating and even depressing, but I personally find them interesting and important to discuss to try to figure out what we as vegans and vegan media can possibly do to try to prevent these bad vegan PR moments from arising. Once hailed as a panacea, veganism now faces scrutiny from former advocates turned skeptics, including the likes of Miley Cyrus, Anne Hathaway, Beyonce, Kristen Bell, and most recently Lizzo, who have all publicly jumped off the vegan bandwagon in recent years. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't call veganism a bandwagon, especially since, as we're well aware from recent events, traveling music shows don't seem to be our strong suit. And I don't know about you, but I personally wouldn't consider people who ate a vegan diet specifically to prepare for a musical performance or movie role to ever have been on the vegan bandwagon, so that's strike two of misrepresenting veganism, but let's continue. Lizzo, 36, described herself as a former vegan in a What I Eat in a Day video she shared online. Lizzo had kind of been a darling of celebrity vegan media coverage over the last few years. In fact, her TikTok and Instagram handles used to be, and her Instagram handle still is, Lizzo Be Eating, because much of her content was her eating food, and since she was vegan, eating vegan food. So on the surface, her announcement was super surprising, but not for those of us who had been paying attention, and specifically not for those of us who subscribe to my Patreon. At risk of twisting my own arm, I'd like to pat myself on the back for calling this back in September in a Patreon voice note podcast. For some reason, I was compelled to look at Lizzo's TikTok to find out if she still was vegan, and after doing some digging, I noticed that she no longer seemed to be vegan. I'll talk about the specific video that tipped me off in a little bit. Also, because we're talking about Lizzo, I feel like I have to mention this, that she had a pretty big scandal last year where there were people who came out making accusations against her. Had nothing to do with veganism, but I'm not going to get into it. If you're curious, Google it. But I think it's safe to say before the scandal, she had a really pretty pristine reputation, which I think was one reason why she seemed to be such a great ambassador for the vegan movement. Like, oh, she's super unproblematic and well-loved by everyone. Like, we'll take her. Even though I personally don't believe in celebrity vegan ambassadors, we'll get into that more later. When the scandal came out, I think for a lot of people, not just vegans, there was a sense of like, maybe this person isn't who we thought they were. So bearing all that in mind, I was not too surprised by her recent announcement. But I was quite surprised by a lot of the ignorance displayed, as well as some contradictory statements that were made. So, you know, just a classic no longer vegan viewing experience. Before we move on with the article, I want to watch and discuss the TikTok.
What I eat in a day as a former vegan who added protein to her diet.
Like, this is such clear rage bait that it feels like I am knowingly walking into an intentionally set trap by responding to it. But regardless, I'm going to respond to it. Obviously, what an ignorant and dangerous statement to put out there, essentially implying that there are no plant sources of protein. You know, she could have said added more protein or added animal protein, but nope, she just said protein. I don't know about you, but I'm kind of craving a little data snack. So I did some foraging to pull up some numbers from the USDA food data site, looking at plant proteins versus animal proteins per 100 grams. As far as I can tell, vital wheat gluten is actually the highest food protein protein source at 75 grams of protein per 100 grams. But obviously most people aren't eating vital wheat gluten straight, at least I don't think so. So I looked at something like the Upton seitan cubes for a bit of a more realistic representation, which came in at 29.8 grams of protein per 100 grams, so pretty high. And then if we look at chicken, because that seems to be Lizzo's current animal protein of choice, and that comes in lower than seitan at 22.5 grams of protein. We look at tempeh, it's pretty comparable to chicken at 21.4 grams of protein. Chickpeas, almost exactly the same as tempeh, 21.3 grams per 100 grams. If we look at salmon, slightly lower, 20.3 grams per 100 grams. And if we look at egg, which seems to be Lizzo's other animal protein of choice, that is 10.7 grams per 100 grams, and tofu is pretty comparable to egg, in fact slightly higher at 10.9 grams of protein per 100 grams. It honestly feels so silly to even talk about all of this. Like, do we really have to do this? I'm exhausted. But then you see categorical displays of ignorance like this, implying that animal protein equals protein, plant protein equals air, I guess? And I am once again stunned by the ignorance in the world, and I realize, yes, we do need to talk about this. I also want to mention that some people on Reddit claimed when Lizzo was vegan, it didn't seem like she ate a lot of protein or a super balanced diet. I don't recall too many details of her content back then, but it wouldn't surprise me. Let's keep going.
My reintroduction to protein started with Japan. Someone suggested I try a Japanese diet because it's one of the healthiest diets in the world and it has some of my favorite foods.
Aren't Japanese diets notoriously low in animal foods and high in plant foods? Also, this is just giving such a diet hopping vibe. Like, I went to Japan, I heard about the Japanese diet, I'm gonna try that. Next I'm gonna go to the Mediterranean and I'll try the Mediterranean diet. It's like she's just getting her passport stamped and trying a new diet in every country she goes to.
When I got to Japan, I was in awe at how clean and delicious their food was. I indulged in fresh sushi and fluffy egg, and I was amazed at how good my body felt the next day.
The classic, I ate egg and fish one time and immediately all my problems went away. What would a no longer vegan video be without it? It's almost comforting in its predictability.
And that led me on a journey to figure out how animal proteins affect my body.
Another one. She's really just checking all the boxes here. She went on a journey, you guys.
After tests and research, I found that animal proteins helped me have more energy, lose weight, and helped with my mental fog.
The classic vague and dubious tests and research. Were there any actual medical tests behind this? What tests were done? What were the results? Will we ever find out? Almost assuredly not.
I do believe that the vegan diet is still the healthiest diet to have, and I aspire to one day be a raw alkaline vegan.
Ow! Oh my god. I actually think I'm gonna need to pause filming and be driven to the hospital because I literally just got whiplash from that statement. What? What are we even saying here? What is happening in this video? I was vegan, but it made me feel like shit, and then I started eating animal protein again and immediately felt better. Tests and research confirmed this to be true, but one day I hope to go back to being vegan. Well, not exactly vegan, but an even more restrictive form of veganism, which is notoriously hard to maintain. Rock solid logic. Can't argue with it.
Until then, this is the diet that's helped me reach my goals and help me feel good in my body.
Until then? Until when? Like, when is going to be this magical moment when you decide you can finally be the raw alkaline vegan you've always wanted to be? I'm gonna go ahead and say that a person with her resources has no excuse to not be able to eat exactly the way she wants to eat.
It can be scary talking about things like this because veganism is such a sensitive subject. People are vegan for many reasons, whether it be health or environmental or love for the animals or all of the above.
Well, obviously right here we have confirmation that she does not understand what veganism is and never did. And probably never should have called herself vegan in the first place. She's not wrong that people may eat a plant-based diet for multiple reasons, but as I've already clarified, veganism is about not wanting to participate in animal exploitation.
I'm aware how people could take this and how it can make them feel.
Just to clarify, my feelings aren't hurt, but I am dumbfounded by your willful ignorance.
But I'd rather be honest and share my story in my own words. Whether you're vegan, vegetarian, pescatarian, white meat only, or fully carnivorous, I'm not going to judge you. Do what's best for you in your life at that moment. All that matters is that you're happy. And if you're happy, I'm happy.
I don't know about you, but knowing that the way I'm eating is directly causing animals to suffer and be killed doesn't make me happy, and that's why I'm vegan. You do you, I'll do me. That's like, you know how there's the narcissist prayer? That's like the Carnist prayer. You don't judge what I eat, I won't judge what you eat. It's like a get out of morality free card. As long as we all agree not to care about the harm each other are causing, we can all feel better about the harm we're causing. Now, it's not surprising to hear a celebrity spew self-centered rhetoric like all that matters is our own happiness, but for some reason in our culture we've decided that just because someone is gifted at singing and playing the flute, that they're automatically these wise, all-knowing creatures that should be listened to. In Lizzo's case, almost 38 million people are being reached by this message, and I'm not saying all these people are going to take Lizzo's every word as gospel, but in our society, people are influenced by celebrities and increasingly by influencers, and Lizzo is someone who falls in both of those categories. Now, I also have to laugh hearing her talk about how she ate in Japan and how it led her to have this awakening about clean eating. So she was touring in Japan in July for over 2 weeks, and the video I saw that tipped me off that our girl was no longer vegan was posted at the end of August, and it's her in Bali eating an array of what could only be described as absolute junk food. Packaged Oreo products, soda, chips, Pocky sticks, etc. There's also a recent video of her from 2 days ago eating a coney dog, chili cheese fries, and a soda. But no, look at her. Just look at how clean and healthy she's eating now that she cut that unhealthy vegan food out of her life. To be clear, this is not me judging or food shaming at all. I love me some good vegan junk food. But like, girl, just say you want to eat animal products again. We don't need the pageantry and the tall tales about your health awakening trip to Japan. One more thing about the Lizzo video before we move on. I'm sick of vegans in comment sections of videos like this making really calm and well-articulated points, and then other people being like, LOL, the vegans are losing their shit. Just for the record, just so we're clear, this is not me even remotely losing my shit. On a scale of 1 to shit completely lost, I'm hovering at about a 2. Trust me when I say I have a lot of shit left to lose. Let's stop painting a vegan making totally reasonable arguments and expressing their disappointment as some totally unhinged lunatic. I will say that these comments were actually pretty few and far between on the Instagram post. The overwhelming majority of comments were from vegans calling out her inconsistencies and harmful statements. Before we get back to the article, because there was a brief mention of Kristen Bell, I want to touch on that too, because this is something else that happened earlier this year, which was her announcing that she was eating meat again after 30 years of being a vegetarian. Here's her talking about it on a podcast.
I was a very happy vegetarian for 30 years. I started when I was 11. I stopped when I was 41. And I don't know why. It came about randomly and in small increments. And now I will do it once in a while. Although I do find I call myself an ethical carnivore. I pay attention to where it comes from and how it's harvested and to try to avoid factory farming. All the things that just help me sleep at night personally. I will say one thing that's pretty consistent in my life is that I try everything for wellness. I'm like a wellness junkie. And so I'm learning about heat shock proteins and trying to go in a sauna, and I take different supplements, and I'm thinking about like, do I stretch before or after the workout? Like,
okay, I've heard enough. So people were really disappointed by this revelation, but it's kind of no surprise given that she said she'll try everything for wellness in regard to eating meat again. It's kind of on theme with the article at hand. She never really comes around to explaining exactly why she started eating meat again, but hilariously, not even 2 minutes later, she says this.
This is good to fact check though, because I say a lot of stuff that doesn't like check out.
So that checks out. What strikes me is that if Kristen Bell went vegetarian when she was 11 and stayed that way until she was 41, this means that she was vegetarian for basically the entirety of her acting career, even apparently vegan for part of it. And I just find it interesting, all these usual excuses people give about how they couldn't function well or had severe brain fog without animal protein. And I'm not saying working a lot means you're always feeling good, but from Veronica Mars to Forgetting Sarah Marshall to Gossip Girl to Frozen to The Good Place, I basically have not stopped seeing this woman on my screen or hearing her in my ears for the last 20 years. And I'm just saying, this doesn't strike me as someone who who wasn't thriving without meat. And what a surprise! We'll talk about this more later, but wouldn't you know, here's VegNews using Kristen Bell's new hit Netflix show in a carousel of memes about veganism and also claiming in the caption she's a longtime vegetarian. I know, we've talked about this before, I have a whole video about it, but it just makes them and us, by default, seem so desperate. It's kind of sad. Like sharing a romantic photo of you and your ex when they have moved on, gotten remarried, and had a child. Or at best, just makes them look very out of the loop. It's been a long detour, we're losing light, so let's get back to the article. The internet, and TikTok in particular, is flooded with reports from former vegans claiming the diet almost destroyed them. Oh, you mean like this woman who claimed she almost died on a vegan diet before bursting out laughing, never explaining how she almost died, and when people asked for clarification, telling them her medical history was none of their business? But sure, TikTok reports rock solid evidence of a vegan diet being harmful. After all, while a vegan diet can be incredibly nutritious, with the introduction of ultra-processed vegan junk foods, simply switching to a plant-based diet doesn't guarantee an improvement in health. Introduction of ultra-processed vegan junk foods really tickles me. As if they just debuted recently. I guess somebody didn't watch my Vegan in the 2000s video, because if they did, they'd know that we've been eating processed vegan junk food for decades. The question on everyone's lips, is veganism dead? Is that the question on everyone's lips? Speaking of Gossip Girl, is veganism dead? That's one secret I'll never tell. You know you love me. XOXO, affordable girl. Believe it or not, all of that was actually the intro of the article, but now it officially starts by telling a story of a woman named Evie who went vegan but then struggled with brain fog as well as getting enough iron and B12, and also claimed it was restrictive, eventually going back to eating animal foods. Again, it name checks the same celebrities and reiterates the points about TikTok and vegan junk food. This, of course, is a far cry from the mid-2010s when veganism grew to be as synonymous with a healthy lifestyle as Lululemon is with Yoga Kit. The first shoots of a link emerged when Victoria Beckham picked up a copy of Skinny Bitch Book of Vegan Swaps in an LA bookshop in 2007, which, despite the title, included a critique of factory farming and animal cruelty. Unfortunately, or honestly probably fortunately, I am all too familiar with this moment in history, which I went into in depth in my deep dive / rereading of Skinny Bitch from years ago. The article continues with a lot of talking points that I think we're all pretty familiar with: Veganuary, the Game Changers, 2019 being the year of the vegan, Greg's sausage roll. Kind of, in my opinion, all these superficial markers of veganism being on the rise that often get thrown around and then used as leverage to then come out with a statement like, 5 years on, veganism's healthy shelf life appears to be up. And again, using some, in my opinion, superficial markers to bolster that assertion. Like, mock meat sales being down doesn't necessarily mean people are eating less vegan food. In fact, the article even comes back around to this point, acknowledging that total sales of plant-based foods are increasing. The rest of the article is honestly all over the place, talking about criticisms of the Game Changers, the health benefits of a vegan diet, another anecdote from a health coach and wellness blogger who claimed she didn't feel good on a vegan diet, then talking about the climate crisis and the impact our diets have on it, before getting back to the plant-based food market, healthy ways to follow a plant-based diet, and then ending with 3 ways to make your diet more climate friendly. I'm not saying these aren't worthy topics, but safe to say this article completely lost the plot about wellness canceling veganism. And if their goal was to prove that wellness has canceled veganism, well, they certainly didn't do that. So since they missed the mark, I'm going to go ahead and bring it home and claim that no, wellness didn't cancel veganism. One of the problems is, for so many years, veganism's media coverage was as a weight loss plan. It was discussed within the context of celebrities losing weight for movies or tours, within the context of books like Skinny Bitch. Unfortunately, it got really swept up in the diet culture that was so pervasive in the late 2000s, early 2010s, and that never really went away, as far as I'm concerned, has just successfully rebranded as wellness culture. In my opinion, a lot of what Lizzo said in the TikTok and Kristen Bell said in the podcast was revealing more of an obsession with wellness and overall superficial markers for health. that tends to supersede people's better judgments on the truly compelling reasons to go vegan. With celebrities and regular people, veganism, aka eating a plant-based diet, becomes this kind of costume that they try on, and if it doesn't fit or serve their self-centered goals, take it off and say, yeah, it didn't work for me, often causing damage along the way in the form of misinformation. And as we've talked about many times, the constant celebrity coverage within vegan media is a problem for this reason. Sadly, maybe the truth is these media outlets would get far less clicks if they didn't lean so heavily into the celebrity angle, but I can't help but think we're setting ourselves up for failure every time we platform and praise a celebrity for being vegan or doing anything vegan adjacent. Because as I've said before, it's a catch-22. The more coverage they get about being vegan, the bigger a story it becomes when they're no longer vegan. Look, I've participated in it. I reacted to Lizzo's Hot Ones episode a few years ago. In all fairness though, that was more about me wanting to eat Fruffalo wings than anything else. So in the future, if you see me doing any Hot Ones reactions, just know that it's more about the Fruffalo wings and less about the celebrity. Field roast, let's talk. In conclusion, I think wellness and diet culture is more pervasive than ever, more of a problem than ever. It's just gotten more clever at hiding itself. And I also think, contrary to popular opinion, that has nothing to do with veganism. Vegan celebrity media coverage can also be a problem and something I think we really need to weigh the cost of. A few clicks versus platforming people who have shown time and time again to not give a shit about our cause. So what do you guys think? Did wellness cancel veganism? Do you agree with the points I made? I would love to hear all of your thoughts on this. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe for more videos. If you'd like even more from me, check out Patreon, where there are hours and hours of exclusive content at the dinner fork tier. Joining any paid tier gets you Discord access. The Discord community has been growing. It's been really fun interacting with everyone over there, so we'd love to have you join. A very special thank you to my fancy forks, Claudia and Zach. That's it for today. Thanks for watching. Have fun, stay safe, keep it totally forkable, and for my US forks, don't forget to vote. Bye!